Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. You are at WYTV7 Christian Broadcast, and you are in the gap with your host, Keith Smith. And I am so glad to have you guys back. I want to welcome you in from the broadcast viewing audience and also our listening audience that may be listening by podcast. Thank you for joining us today. And today's show, we're going to build off of what we did last week. It was kind of a self-reflection type program. So today we're going to carry it a step further. Is some of the things that you may think about when you do your self-reflection. And one of the things I think about, and I think a lot of people who've come through a hardship think about, what is your legacy going to be? What are you going to be remembered for? Who do you represent in this situation? And I'm hoping today we're going to be able to tackle those things and really give some clarification and maybe speak to someone that's going through this situation. And I can only speak from my own life and the things that I went through. So I want to start off by telling you a story that really made me think a lot about my dad when I read this story. And it was about a guy who he was a tiger conservationist, and he spent over 35 years in the jungles helping to preserve tigers in foreign lands where they were becoming extinct. And that was his life's work. And what was so catchy in this whole story to me was when he got ready, right before he got ready to die, he had wrote a letter about his life's work. And there was a phrase in there that really caught my attention. And the phrase was this. He said, I'm going to be spent the majority of my life, over half of my life, protecting something that will outlive me. And I said, wow, this guy's gave up most of his life to protect some tigers. And that's what his life work was. And he said, he was saying that those tigers he's protecting, after he's gone, they're going to outlive him. Well, how did that make me think about my dad? Well, my dad did not help preserve tigers in the jungle. But my dad, like you might know from other episodes, my dad was a police officer, well-respected man in the community. But the part that I thought about him was not it was about how he lived his life. But the thing that really caught me and connected me to this story was how my dad was remembered after he passed. And my dad passed in September of 2003, and it was a really tough time in my life. And I remember days after the funeral, people would talk about my dad, and they'd tell me all these great stories, and this is how they remembered him. And even now, my dad, like I say, it's been almost 16 years, and I've never heard anybody say anything bad about my dad. Everybody loved my dad. I remember at the funeral, the church holds over 1,500 people. There were people standing up in the back. There were so many people that come out to pay their respects. And I said, you know what? My dad was just like that tiger conservationist because he had figured this out. He spent his whole life protecting something that was going to outlive him. And that was his reputation. What people thought about him, what people were going to say once he was gone. Well, I got to experience that. And the pride just welled up in me to know that people thought about my dad like that. But my dad protected his reputation. He spent his whole life trying to do that. And to this day, my dad was the greatest man I've ever known. And he really poured into my life and my brother's life. But it was the things people said about him when he was gone that really caught my attention. And I said, you know what? Each and every one of us should be protecting something that's going to outlive us. And that's our reputation. But now, what does it mean to, how do you build this reputation? Well, I come up with two really, really important categories. And I'm sure you can come up with your own when you think about your life. But one of the ways that we build our reputation is through the choices and decisions we make over time. And the Bible says in Galatians 6 and 7, be not deceived, for God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows shall he also reap. And I've talked in other episodes how people will bring out the negative connotation with that and just say, Well, whatever you sow, you're going to reap it, but that also means the good and the bad. So through your lifetime, it's going to be the good choices and the bad choices and what people remember about you that's going to define your legacy, that's going to show who you represent and how you lived your life. Yes, none of us are perfect. And even though I to this day, I think my dad was the best man that ever walked this earth. I'm sure he was not perfect by a long shot, but I don't know any major mistakes that he made and things that scarred his reputation, because his reputation is still outliving him. Every time I go around people and they bring up my dad, it outlives him. So what do we do to protect this reputation, you know? And it's to make the best choices possible, because that's what people are going to remember about. I heard one of the funniest stories I ever heard in my life. And after I got done laughing so hard, I really realized they were giving me a life lesson in this story. And the story was about a man who had a talking dog, and he had a sign in his yard. And the sign said, "Talking dog for sale." Well, a guy rode by his house and said, "Wow, he's got a talking dog for real. I got to see this." So he stopped, pulled in the man's yard, rung the doorbell. Guy comes to the door. He says, "Sir, there's a sign in your yard that says you got a talking dog for sale. Do you really have one?" He said, "Absolutely. He's in here reading the newspaper right now in the recliner." He said, "Do you mind if I come in and see this? Because this is amazing." He said, "Come on in." So when he walked in the living room, the dog was sitting in the recliner reading the newspaper. He tilted the newspaper down, looked at the man over the top of his glasses, and went back to reading. The owner sat down in his recliner and grabbed his paper and started back reading. So the guy just stood there in awe at this dog. And he said, "Sir, do you mind if I ask your dog some questions?" And the guy said, "Go ahead." So the dog folded his paper up, took his glasses down and set it in his little lap. And he just stared at the man. And the man said, "Well, Mr. Dog, can you tell me, what have you done with your life up to this point so far?" And the dog looked at him and matter of factly said, "You know what?" He said, "When I was a pup in my younger years, I used to rescue avalanche victims in the Colorado mountains. And then after I grew up a little bit and wanted to move on to greater things, I joined the Army as a bomb-sniffing dog. I did 2 tours in Iraq and got the National Congressional Medal of Honor and a Purple Heart." And he said, "Now that I'm retired from the military, I go down to the old folks' home and I read poetry to the elderly people." This guy was in amazement. He was just shaking his head. He could not believe this. And he looked at the owner and said, "Sir, why would you want to sell such an amazing dog as this?" The guy looked at him and a matter of fact, he said, "Because he's a liar. He's never done any of those things." Now, once I got done laughing so hard because I thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever heard, I said, wow, that is a life lesson. Because if I had a talking dog that could read a newspaper and talk to people, we're going to television. But no matter how amazing this dog was, he had one bad quality. One bad quality that overrode all of his awesomeness. And that was the fact that the owner said, "He's a liar. I don't want anything to do with this dog. I don't care what he's good at. Because of this one bad quality, this one mistake, this one choice that he makes to continue telling these lies, I don't want any part of him." Well, that made me start thinking about my life, man. Wow. And I'm far from perfect. You guys who've been following me, ladies and gentlemen, y'all already know my story. You know the bevy of bad choices that I made. So it made me start evaluating my life to say, dog, I've done some great things with my life, but will I be remembered for that, or the few things that I did that were so huge in a negative way to be remembered for? And I said, you know what? My dad had it right. Protect your reputation. Well, I started thinking about mine, and I said, you know what? Even when I was doing EMS work, I got 3 saved life pins where I helped save 3 people's lives in my past life. You know, I think about being a police officer, all the calls I responded to where I might have preserved someone's life, or I might have helped this person in this situation. You know, I got a lot of really good qualities. But will it really matter when people start evaluating my life once I'm gone? You know, what are my kids going to hear about me once I've passed, like my dad, like I had opportunity to hear the great things? Are they going to hear the bad things, or are they going to hear the good things about me? And I started thinking, you know, the good will always outweigh the bad. And it's a shame that we have all these huge qualities, but we could have one negative quality that will override all of it. Just like that dog. I think that dog was amazing. That man thought that. But the owner said, get him away from me. I don't want him anymore because of this one thing. So when I self-reflect, and when you self-reflect, what do you think about the choices and decisions you make? At In the Gap Motivational, our speaking company, our inspirational and motivational speaking company, we have a saying, a slogan that says, life is not perfect, but your choices must be, or our choices must be. And that just goes to show how critical every choice is, not for us just to live a successful life, but also to be remembered for our life, past our lifetime, something that is going to be there that we need to protect while we're living on this earth, what people are going to say, how they responded to our life once we're gone. That's our legacy. Well, the first point was choices and decisions over time. You know, the good qualities, bad qualities. At the end, what overrides it? What are people remembering? The second thing, and I think is one of the most important things as well, is people. People influence our reputation. People affect our lives because they're connected to our lives. A couple of weeks ago, I just talked about how people are connected to our purpose. Well, not only our purpose, our life, they are connected to it. And during that lifetime, you're going to have several people that's connected to you. Well, one thing I figured out about the choices and decisions I make, and I think this goes across the board for all of us, you are a direct representation of everyone that has poured into your life. Every choice, every decision, your reputation once you're gone from here, the people that poured into you are part of that life. You represent them. And I can remember when I was in the midst of all my mess, and common sense would come in and say, you know what, man, you're in over your head. You need to quit some of this stuff. You need to get your life in order. You know, you got a family. You got people that look up and respect you. You know, you have a town that trusts you. What are you doing? And I would always come back and say this one thing. If I get caught for the things I'm doing wrong, nobody has to worry about it but me. Well, you know what? I was wrong. Because everybody that had poured into my life was affected by my bad choices and my poor decisions. When I found myself in incarceration, those same people who still cared about me, that took their time to pour into me, they suffered as well. And I didn't realize that until it was too late. You know, I heard a song a few weeks back that I remember growing up and being around my dad, my uncles, and different people. I used to hang out with kind of an older crowd. And it was George Jones, and he's one of the all-time greatest country singers. And in this song, he says, who's going to fill their shoes? And I started thinking, a lot of people who have poured into my life are no longer here anymore. Or these people are in the latter stages of their life now. You know, who's going to fill their shoes once they're gone? And I started thinking about the people that poured into my life. And I know you're not going to know these names, but it's the people like Marshall Grooms and Brian Brummels who coached football. My Uncle Red, who coached football all these years, worked full-time jobs and still poured into us young kids and stayed with us throughout our life, supporting us. And it's the people like David Flowers and Billy Ray McDonald's and the Billy Burt Shelleys and the Harrison Lampreys, and the list goes on and on. And I know I'm leaving out a lot of very important people that poured into my life. And I know you guys don't know any of those people. But to me, they mean the world because they were directly connected to me. And I had to understand the time that they took to pour into me to be successful. By my choices and my decisions, I canceled all that out. I might as well have been a dog with great talents, that had the one thing wrong that people didn't want anything to do with anymore. Because I took what these people poured into me and I did not use it for the best use. I used it in a way that helped not only destroy my life, but other people's lives. And now I understand these people were connected to me because they took the time to pour into me. So before you start making choices and decisions, you think about the people in your life. And when they say who's going to fill their shoes, well, one thing I understand about this too, you got people that's pouring into your life. And you got people that's poured into my life, like the Marshall Grooms and the Will Walters and the David Flowers, that no one's going to fill their shoes. You know why? Because some people's shoes are not made to be filled. You are lucky to be able to have these people in your life, influencing in your life, and your decision, your choice, your reputation should be a direct reflection to these people because they deserve that. Same way as when I go home and I hear people talk about my dad, and I live about 2.5 hours from the place that I was raised up in. But when I go home and I hear people talk about my dad, he deserves that. Those people that are poured into your life, that poured into my life, they deserve that. And it's not just the people that pour into our lives. I think about the Bible. You know, people were always connected, pouring into each other's lives. You know, we think about, you know, how great Samuel was and how he was connected to David's life. But how about how Eli was connected to his life? Eli poured into Samuel so he could pour into David. And who else was connected to David's life? Jonathan, Saul's own son. How was he a direct reflection? He loved David so much. But if Saul would have known that his son was helping David, it might have been the end of his life. And then I think about how David had a chance to kill Saul a few times, and he didn't do it. He said, should I lay my hand on God's anointing? Well, I know David respected God and the people that he put in his life, but I also think he did that too for the love that he had for Jonathan, knowing that was his dad. So see how people are connected to your life, pours into your life, and it helps your outcome, your legacy. David was the greatest king of all time. His son was the most wisest king of all time, Solomon. And now think about Elijah and Elisha, how they were connected, and how when Elijah's life was over, he had poured so much into Elisha, it was still like Elijah was still there. He was still performing the things that Elijah did. It was like God took one and left another one because he poured into him. Well, you know what? These men, their shoes can't be filled sometimes. Nobody will ever fill Marshall Grooms' shoes in my life or my dad's shoes. But there are some people that we are supposed to fill those shoes to help other people. And there's a few more. David Flowers, nobody will ever fill his shoes in my life. But let me tell you, the ones that you can fill, we have to do that. I think about Jeremiah. You know, he had a servant, I think his name was Baruch, or that's how you pronounce it. That's the way I do. Baruch. Baruch was connected to him, even though he wasn't as talked about as Jeremiah. The feats of Jeremiah is noted all throughout the Bible and in the book of Jeremiah. But he couldn't have performed them without Baruch being his assistant, pouring into him. So you don't always have to be older. You don't always have to be in a position of entitlement to pour into someone's life. You could just be connected to them. You could just be what we call a sidekick or a wingman. You pour into their life. You don't have to be a best friend. You could be someone who's grew up in a childhood and had a distant connection to them and then get reunited with a person in their life to still pour into their life at a later stage. So we have to be conscious of this and these people and the choices that we're making, how we reflect this. And I started thinking, you know, when my days are said and done and my life is over with, what is people going to say about it? Are they going to remember the things I did to cause me to go to prison? Or are they going to remember me for some of the great qualities I had before I made those mistakes? And even greater qualities that God has put in me because I spent time with him during the repercussions of those mistakes and I grew in him. Are they going to remember that? And I came up with this one thing. And this much I know, I mean this with all my heart. When it comes my time for people to say things about me, There's 5 things I want to be known for. I want to be known for being a servant of Jesus Christ, to be a faithful servant of Jesus Christ, to be a direct representation of his life for what he has poured into my life. That's first and foremost. I want to be known for being a good husband. I want to be known for being a good father. I want to be known for being a good grandfather. And last but not least, I want to be known for being a good friend. If these 5 things I can accomplish in my life, it really doesn't matter what they bring up. Because to the people that really matter and the people that poured into your life that still may be there at the end of your life, to them, those 5 things will be most important. And I've learned we don't always protect our reputation like we should. But God, through his grace and his mercy, because he died on the cross for us in the form of Jesus Christ, my King and Savior, and yours, if you serve him, if you made that commitment today, you're a direct representation of him. And if you have not done that, you have opportunity today to do that. I say this all the time, 1 John 1:9. If we confess our sins, he says he is quick and just to forgive us of our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. If you need to do that today, if you're ready to right your wrongs and start building your legacy through Christ and building your reputation, just say that simple prayer. Say, Lord, I'm a sinner. I've done wrong. My reputation is not that good. But maybe you can start helping me rebuild that today. Let me start living for you. Show me the way of how I should live for you. Cleanse me of my sins. Cast them into the sea where they're not to be remembered, and help me move forward to have my legacy say good things about me and how I represented you and my family and my friends. If you said that today, I want you to contact us. Let us know you did that, because that's the most important thing. And one other thing that I want to say that I'm proud to represent today is WYTV7, because they gave me a chance. I'm a representation of them now, because they gave me opportunity. And not only the television broadcast promoters, the directors, the behind the scenes people, even the broadcasters, I'm connected to each and every one, and we're pouring into each other's lives. Even when we may not know each other personally, we still do that. And we ask you to continue to pour into other people's lives. But do this small thing. Help pour into our ministry. You can do that today by going to WYTV7 and click on that donate button. Send us a donation. That way you will represent WYTV7 as well. And you will help us represent them to the fullest for the kingdom of God, because that's what it's all about. These messages, it's not about me and the other broadcasters. It's about how many people we reach, how many lives we can change. And if it's only one, it's well worth it. And I want to say this too. At the end of the day, what would your reputation say? Do you have your list of things you want people to say about you? Do you have those people in your life that you want to remember that poured into your life to say, hey, I might not have represented them in the right light. Let me do it now while it's not too late. Thank these people, because some of them I didn't get an opportunity to get to tell them how much they meant in my life. Thank them today for pouring into your life. And if you'll join us next time, guess what? We'll pour into your life again. And if you want to reach us before then, if you want to check out our website, go to inthegapmotivational.com. You can also look at future broadcasts on our page by going to the gallery section on our contacts page and click on broadcasts and podcasts. You can see all the videos there as well. You can go to YouTube and type in WYTV7, and even on our contacts page on our website, we have all of our contact information and all of our social media pages where I have other videos as well, not only what we do on the broadcast for WYTV7. Hey, contact us. And if you would like to book us to come to your event, to your church, please reach out to us. We will make a way. And we just want to continue this and keep our reputation going in a positive light, and we thank WYTV7 for helping us make that happen. Hey, until next time, we'll be standing in the gap for you. But remember, thank these people and start standing in the gap for those who can't stand in the gap for themselves. We'll see you next time.